I asked the city clerk to read the disclosure necessary for these distancing meetings.
City Clerk Amy Fitch speaking. I'll be providing information, remote access to tonight's meeting, as well as procedural guidelines. Due to efforts to mitigate the spread of COVID-19, physical access to the City Commission meeting will be restricted. In accordance with the Kansas Open Meetings Act, (COMA), the meeting can be viewed live on Channel 23 and via Facebook Live or listened to by dialing 312-626-6799 and entering meeting ID code 979-6273-3505#. That information is available at the top of tonight's agenda. Guidelines for this meeting are as follows. Each member of the public, staff, or presenter is required to state the individual's name and title, if any, each time they begin speaking or voting, so they may be identified by remote listening. Citizens that submitted comments by 4:00 p.m. today to publiccomments@ottawaks.gov were given to the City Commission to be read during public comment or during discussion on an agenda item. The Commission must describe at the beginning of the meeting the process that will be used for a closed or executive meeting pursuant to KSA 75-4319 and amendments thereto.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I want to call this meeting to order. This is Mayor Tom Wygand, and I'd like to have the clerk read the call the roll.
Mayor Wygand?
Yes, present.
Commissioner Kaler?
Present.
Commissioner Crowley?
Present.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Present.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Present.
All commissioners present. I want to welcome all of those who are on the call tonight, either by phone or watching on social media as we go through the proceedings this evening. We also have some people present in the City Hall. With that, I'd like to have everyone stand, and we will say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States
of America,
and to the republic
for which it
which
stands,
stands
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A little bit lag there, but that's great. Now I ask Commissioner Skidmore to give the invocation tonight.
Sure. Let's pray. Father, we do give you thanks tonight. We can meet, even though this new technology, you still provide a way for us to meet and discuss the affairs of our community to make it a better place. Father, we thank you for all the city employees, for all the department heads and their dedication to this community and how they want to make it a better place every day. God, we've got a lot of discussions tonight to talk about with regard to all the items on this agenda. We don't pretend to know all the answers by ourselves. That's why we call on your divine direction and guidance as we talk through these topics. That'll be pleasing to you. And Lord, also we're concerned about the virus still affecting our community. We pray for the healing of those that are sick and that you provide protection for the rest of us as we do all we can to protect ourselves and others as we go about our daily lives. We commit this time to you in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Commissioner. We have a consent agenda. Items 6 through 7 include the minutes from the following meetings. Study sessions of June 8th, June 15th, and June 22nd, and June 29th of 2020. And then the regular commission meeting of June 17th, 2020. I'd ask for approval of that agenda or corrections to the same.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Kaler.
Commissioner Kaler moves to approve the consent agenda.
Commissioner Crowley will second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? There being none, I would, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed. Motion carried unanimously. We have now we move to the regular agenda and Clerk Finch, do we have public comments?
Mayor Wygand, City Clerk Amy Fitch speaking. No one registered for public comment this evening.
Thank you. We'll dispense with reading the rules for that public comments. Item 9, I'd like to have the commissioners, at this time, I'd like to give the commissioner a chance to declare any conflict or communication they've had that might influence their ability to consider today's issues impartially. Any out there? If not, we'll move to new business. Would the clerk read that?
Was that, Mr. Mayor, was that none on the declaration? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
this is Commissioner Jorgensen. I will abstain from public comments on the item having to do with the Heartland replat because I have a professional relationship.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item 10.
City Clerk Amy Finch speaking. Agenda item 10 is a public hearing. The City of Ottawa proposed 2021 budget.
Okay, we have a public hearing has been scheduled to receive comments about the proposed 2021 budget. Finance staff are prepared to make a short presentation on the highlights of the proposed budget, and along with the city manager are available to answer questions. The published mill levy cannot be increased, but it may be reduced. After public comments have been received, it is recommended that the hearing be closed and barring any amendments, the budget be adopted. Ms. Gisbo, are you, do you want to begin the discussion? And I will open the public hearing at what, 7:07?
All right, so I'm going to try to share my screen. Hopefully everyone can see my chart. Okay, so there was some confusion between certified mill levies and budgets. So I went ahead and reorganized my chart in my original memo. So the 2020 certified mill, 2021 budgeted mill levy. So here I just laid out, we have the budgeted property taxes, the assessed valuation, and the mill levy that would be what someone would be looking for in the order they would expect it. So if you're just looking for the, you want to know what the mill levy for the 2021 budget was, and you want to know what we had budgeted in property taxes for that budget, and then what the assessed valuation was projected for that budget year. This is all here. I've got it between 2016 and 2021. And then I just wanted to make sure that that was up there. So if anyone had any questions or anything, I could address those.
Okay.
Okay.
We are actually lowering the mill levy 1.275 roughly, but
Right.
Are budgeting 192,000 more dollars.
Yes, and we are below our lid. I think it's around $300,000 under what the max we could take is. So that is nice. So I just thought I'd bring up my original memo. And so this does say total county mill levy for 2019. So your 2019 mill levy is your 2020 budget. So I'll just go ahead. So you're adopting a budget's one of the most important decisions the governing body makes. And department heads were asked to keep their 2020 levels, and if they had any kind of changes, they were to bring that to our city manager. The 2021 budget needs to be certified and to the county by the 25th. And then this year we have addressed some of the city facility deferred maintenance issues. And then we've just put more funding into the reserve fund to help start the process of purchases we'll need that are larger. Are there any questions?
This Mayor Tom Wigan, I just note USD 290 and Franklin County have not we don't know what they're budgeting this year, but we're estimating, those are estimates that you have?
Yes, and I
Okay.
will say it does look like Franklin County was,
Laurel,
yes,
if I can, Mr. Mayor, City Clerk Amy Finch speaking. The chart you're seeing for the total count mill levy 2019, those are not estimates. Those are.
Oh, 29, I'm sorry,
Well,
that's true. Those are
the
actually,
certified mill levies that were used for the 2020 budget. So those numbers are actuals and are not estimates. They were certified with the state of Kansas through our county clerk's office.
yeah, I missed the date on that. Thank you.
oh,
And-
yes. So everything that's on the screen is certified, and we just don't have any, they haven't certified the 2020 mill levy because that usually happens around December.
Okay,
I thought you were asking about the current budget, and I was going to say, I think Franklin County's budget hearing is tonight as well.
Yes, I believe, Mayor Wagon, this is Sarah Kaler speaking. I believe that their budget hearing began at 6.
Yes.
okay. Commissioners, do you have any remarks before we open this up? The public?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Richard.
if I could, please.
Yes, please.
Mrs. Gimzo, is there anything else you want to go over on this?
No.
Okay. So let me do a little backtracking here just to talk about what we tried to do in this budget. And we were still in a period of trying to recover and rebuild fund balances. We talked a lot about deferred maintenance of city facilities and actually put a number in there for you to consider. We are focusing on maintaining infrastructure and equipment needs. And we think that 2021 will be a rebuilding year, but what's more important is we just don't know what's going to happen this fall with COVID and what's going to happen next year. So while we put some maintenance needs in here, we've tried to put together a budget that keeps us moving forward. And I would tell you that your department heads have, this is the third year they were asked to reduce from the adopted budget, and they have done that. And the gains we've had in our cash balances is in no small way due to their efforts and still meeting the needs of the community. There are a number of other things in here. When everything is said and done, as the mayor said, the property tax increase would be approximately 190,000 that's been proposed. You have the final word on that. And the mill levy comes down because of the increase in assessed valuation. So if you'll bear with me, I do want to bring something up on the screen. I'm hoping I can get this done. All right, can everybody see that?
I see, yeah, yes, I can. Everybody else?
So let me walk through this with you. The question was asked at our last meeting, what would approximately $98,000 of reductions look like? And here is the list that I came up. All the department heads saw the list. Not everyone's happy with it, and that's okay because they understand how this goes. But I was asked the question, what would it look like if we trim the proposed budget $98,517? We have a part-time custodial in our custodial group that we haven't funded for 2 years. I would drop that off. I would drop $2,000 out of city commission travel. Police department proposed 2 overhires. I would reduce that to 1. Police also proposed 50,000 into equipment reserve. I would reduce that to 25,000 and either use that as a car reserve or a maintenance reserve. And then because of the way the formulas work, you also get a reduction in what you levy for delinquent property tax. So that 2,317, all those add up to $98,517. So any questions on that, commissioners?
Mr. City Manager, this is Commissioner Jorgensen. Can you tell us what an overhire is?
That is basically, and Chief Weingartner can hop in here at any time, but that's basically, the way I look at it is it's adding 2 more individuals, 2 more authorized positions to the existing force that we have. Is that right, Chief?
Yes, this is Adam Weingartner, Police Chief. So for many years prior, Richard has allowed the police department to overhire if we were to need it, to make sure that we don't reduce our staffing levels to a point where it just becomes problematic to provide 24-hour police services without a lot of overtime. And those overhires had never actually been included in the salary line for the department's budget. So I wanted to add it this year so that if the department actually got to a point to be able to overhire, those funds were accurately reflected in the salary request. Part of the reasoning for the overhire request this year is the fact that there's anywhere from a 2 to 6 month waiting list to send new police officers to the Kansas Law Enforcement Training Center to get certified, and that was before COVID-19. I don't know what that will look like in the future, but KLATC did shut down for almost 2 months this year due to COVID-19. Agencies did not stop hiring, including us, and I would expect that backlog to continue for definitely the rest of this year and likely moving forward. And so that's what the overhire is designed for. We have a real issue with our staffing where we hire for a long time, we get close to full strength, and then officers begin to leave, and then we have to start all over. What that overhire is going to allow us to do is reduce that gap of what our deployable staffing needs are compared to what our numbers are. And that is a lot related to the KLATC backlog and the time it gets our staff out there and certified. They're there for 14 weeks. When they come back, we've got them for 11 more weeks of field training. So from the time we take their application until the time that we can put them in a patrol car to begin working by themselves and providing police officer services is at or a little bit over a year. And when you have 25 to 30% below what your authorized staff is, which is the case we've been in for the last few years, that becomes really problematic to maintain staffing.
Okay, so and didn't we talk about, that's Mayor Wigan, but didn't we talk about overhires also reduce overtime, or could or do?
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, this is Chief Weingartner. We did talk a little bit about that. It may help on some of the overtime, but now where it would help is it would reduce the requirements for mandatory overtime, which we do run into to fill shifts. Like, for example, if we're at what we consider our shift minimums and an officer were to be off or sick or injured, it would require an overtime to backfill that position, and it would reduce that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? From my perspective, these are, you know, City Commission travel 2,000. We can do away with that probably due to COVID. We're not going to travel much in the next year, probably. I think I would be in favor of keeping the 2 at the police department, the 2 overhires, the equipment reserve. I'd hate to cut that. We might define that on a different matter, but I think we need to continue to build our reserves to keep our streets smooth. We got to update some HVAC systems in the police department as well as in City Hall. We need to look at and continue to consider the building maintenance, put something in for a parks building sometime, somewhere, got some things coming up that we're going to need reserves for. So I'm going to be a proponent of leaving the suggested budget where it is, but I will also am willing to listen to commissioners' views.
Commissioner or Mayor Wygan. Oh,
Yes,
pardon me.
Commissioner
Sorry,
Keller.
City Manager, please.
Yes,
I'm City Manager.
yes.
And I said, did you have something that you wanted to say first?
No, I was just wondering if you were through with this graphic.
Actually, would you leave that up for a minute? This is Sarah Kaler speaking.
Yes,
Because I do want to address this. I appreciate the fact that you once again went to your staff, who we have said, keep it level. You're not getting any raise. And I mean, I look at it as I would talk to my kids. They're not getting any raise in their allowance next year. And I know that's a very minimal statement, but that's the reality of it is we ask them all to keep it level. And then we ask them to cut even more. But I do think that there are some things in that budget reduction that we may want to look at, and that I am in favor of. From what I just understood, Chief Weingartner say, he has in his budget 2 overhires. So I'm actually in favor of taking away one of those overhires and taking that $55,000 and putting it in a reserve for when he does need that air conditioner that he's talking about, or that heater. Because what I understand is that the police department is down several officers now. And so 5, 6 maybe. And if we hire another one, I'm just not sure we're gonna hire 7 new officers in all of next year. So, and probably not 8. And so I'd like to see that 55,000, make sure that the officers that we do have, they have air conditioning and heating when they need it. And if something were to happen. I am in favor of the reduction in equipment reserve. I'm not in favor of an armored vehicle. It's available to us through other venues in the state of Kansas, and I think that we can spend our money differently. I do understand that it may be needed at some point, but I'm just not really comfortable with doing that in this budget. So I'm completely in favor of cutting that in half, really. I recognize that the delinquency tax, we don't have any choice over that. If we lower it, we lower it. We also have to show a change in delinquency tax. The part-time custodial, I'm okay with not hiring for next year, but I'm fine with leaving it too. Travel, I'm the same. I'm fine with leaving it. I'm fine with letting it go. But my last comment is that we have one organization who asked for a $10,000 increase out of our community service budget this year. And that was, according to my math, and remember, I'm not the accountant, about a 20% increase. And I would like to see us go back to, with the Prairie Paws budget, I do think that they do they do need an increase in their allocation. I'm just not comfortable with the $10,000. And so I would almost propose something like, 57,000, because right now we have them at $52 and $26, $52,026. And I wonder if we raise it an additional $5,400, $5,474 to a flat $57,500. That's just about a 10% increase for Prairie Paws. They have not gotten an allocation increase in several years. I do think they get it. They should get it. I just don't think they should have 10,000. So I'd be interested in taking just a wee bit out of the allocation that they had requested. So in summary, if you building maintenance, I'm fine with. I'm fine with city commission travel. I'm fine with cutting one of the overhires. I'm fine with the equipment reserve, and I'm fine with the delinquency tax cut. And I also think that Prairie Paws probably should, much like every single one of our departments were asked to hold flat and then they were asked to cut again. We shouldn't give 20% increase to that community service budget.
Commissioner Keller, May I ask a question?
Sure.
It's Mayor Wygan. With those, what would that bottom line be instead of 98.5? What would it be with your after your comments are added up?
Sure. So if we went with what was on the screen, then I show that there would be an additional $4,526 taken out of which, I mean, it's not a huge reduction. But we could make that allocation a little bit different. Now, what I did say before, and I want to clarify, I'm for having that $55,000 stay in the budget and move to deferred maintenance. So it's really just going to be about a $50,000 an increase instead of yeah. 50,000. Does this make sense to you? It's about, yeah.
You're going to reduce the 98 to 50?
Right, basically, yes. Which is 1%.
1% of the $50 million budget?
No, 1% of the reduction. I believe that Commissioner Jorgensen asked for a 2% reduction, and a $50,000 decrease would approximately, remember, I'm not a banker, would approximately, I think, be just about half of that, and a 1% decrease.
Okay, any other comments?
Commissioner Skidmore speaking. On the maintenance of the police station, I think we did discuss that with that list we had of deferred maintenance and a lot of the wants that needs we were needing in our community. And at one time we talked about borrowing money to pay for some of those things. And that's still a possibility. We can do that with rates as low as they are now. This might be a good time to build up that maintenance fund and use some of that money and then debt service it out long term. Was that kind of part of the plan with was that air conditioning part of the city, part of the police station maintenance?
Well, if I may, Commissioner, City Manager Richard Neinstead, what my plan would do is the first thing would be to hire a third party that has no interest in selling us anything, but to do a review of our HVAC needs in all of our buildings, put that together, get a report on what condition they're in, try and get them listed into some priority of what needs to be addressed first and what the options are for that cost. So heading into 2021, if you keep maintenance dollars in there, then we can sit down and talk about what the best way is to what the best approach is to start replacing some of those elements that need replaced.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Skidmore, still another question on, I know our city sales taxes have been above last year's, and I don't know if we have a number where we had projected sales taxes for this year, but if we go year over year, up to date, we're about 190,000 just on the city sales tax portion, I should say, over last year at this point. Now, as Richard brought out, which is very critical, we have no idea what the next 6 months will bring. We have no idea what's around the corner for this fall for us, and it could be devastating. So I don't know how much we want to rely on the sales tax dollars. It's good to see that increase. But my question is the excess sales dollars above budget, I assume that just goes to the general fund. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And then the general fund could be used to subsidize some of these other things that we are cutting if we decided later to use them?
Well, the short answer may be yes, but the longer answer is that it all depends upon what that cash balance carryover is on January 1st, 2021, and what happens between now and December 31st.
Okay. And just one last comment, Commissioner Skidmore speaking still. I appreciate Sarah Kaler's recommendation of a 1% reduction instead of 2%. I kind of felt the same way with her comments about this staff's done a hard work and job to put this together, and to cut 2% would seem to be a bit much, but maybe that 1% would be a good happy median. And that's all I've got to say.
Anyone else? Before I say my piece?
Mr. Mayor, before I comment, I'd like to see if there's any public comments on the budget.
Okay. Any public comments?
Hi, this is Terry Chartier with the Ottawa Library.
Yeah, Terry.
I would like to give some comments regarding the library's budget.
Please do.
I received my business finance bachelor's degree from Kansas State University and my master's of library science degree from Emporia State University. After working in finance and accounting positions for 22 years, I was hired by Ottawa Library as the business manager in July of 2008. I was named interim director in October of 2011 and became director in July 2012. This is the 12th budget I have proudly submitted for the Ottawa Library. In regards to the budget for 2021, the library board and I have asked for and reduced our mill levy request for 2021. Our current mill levy is 9.647, and we are requesting a 0.228 decrease to 9.419 for 2021. It is important to note that we did not keep our mill levy flat, but instead reduced it. We pride ourselves in being good stewards of taxpayer funds. On September 6, 1995, the city passed Charter Ordinance number 12-95, increasing our mill levy to 10 mills. The ordinance replaced Charter Ordinance number 6, which was passed on January 17, 1979. That set our mill limit at 6 mills. We have had a 10 mill limit for the past 25 years and had a 6 mill limit for 16 years. We believe that demonstrates and verifies good stewardship of taxpayer funds. We, like the city, have asked for more funds to be used for staff pay increases and to cover increased costs associated with health insurance and day-to-day operations. We have kept many line items flat and could have stated that we were keeping our budget fixed by maintaining a flat mill levy. However, keeping our mill levy flat would have meant budgeting approximately $25,000 more for our ad valorem tax funds. We chose not to make keeping the mill levy flat our talking point. To reiterate and clarify, the total 2021 proposed city budget is $47,255,445. Of that budget, the library's portion is $1,079,477, which is 2.28% of the total city budget. The library mill is 5.3% of the entire Franklin County mill levy. The ad valorem tax total is $4,942,182 of the $47,255,445, which is 10.458% of the total city budget. The library's portion of the ad valorem tax is $987,205, which is the 19.97% that has been discussed at City Commission study sessions. $44,365 of the 2019 actual tax overage of $17,668.56 and 2020 estimated tax overage due to the library that is required to be included in the ad valorem tax calculation for the 2020 budget. So that's $44,365 that has been added to our budget because of those two overages. In 2019, a budget amendment for that $17,668.56 overage was not completed, and it was paid out in January of 2020. Note, overages are a good thing. It's always a good problem to have, and that means that the economy is doing well. There have been tax years when the library did not get all the tax funds that were budgeted due to the economy. In addition, the 2021 delinquent comp rate calculation set by the state is 2.4%. It had been 0% in previous years. The county provides the library with a motor vehicle tax estimate for the budget each year. In accordance with KSA 75-2556 at SEEK, public libraries are eligible for grant and aid from municipalities supporting the library more for the new budget year than was received in the current year. In accordance with Nichols accreditation, member libraries must meet KSA 75-2556 at SEEK to qualify for Nichols grants. And I am happy to provide a handout of Nichols values to libraries and make that available to everyone. Ottawa Library is proud to be recognized as a major Service Center 2 level library in the Northeast Kansas library system, Nichols. This thereby sets high standards for our services, materials, and programs to this community. Libraries are needed. Libraries even the playing field for those who do not have access to services we offer. For example, we provide computers, Wi-Fi, books, DVDs, classes, crafts, magazines, newspapers, programming, etc. to all, regardless of economic level. Libraries improve the quality of life for individuals in the communities they serve. Improving the life of one person in a community is a snowball effect to improving the lives of other people in that community. Libraries advance the human condition. When deciding to move to a new area, many families consider certain services important and will research information about the following: schools, libraries, hospitals, and police and fire protection. Libraries are designed to be autonomous. Autonomous means having the freedom to govern itself or control its own affairs, having the freedom to act independently, acting in accordance with one's moral duty rather than one's desires. I could spend time giving you more extraordinary statistics than I included in the budget memo, but those stats don't tell the whole story. They won't tell you about the countless homeless people we help throughout the year, the 60-year-old who needs help creating a resume or filling out an online job application, the children who aren't interested in reading until they're given the opportunity to sit and read with a dog, our partnership with Harvesters that provides a daily snack to children who might otherwise have little to eat, the teen after hours discussions that benefit not only to the teens, but also the staff facilitators. I could go on and on and on, as I am amazed daily by what the Ottawa Library staff does for our community. Our library was established in March 1872 by 15 members of the Ladies Reading Club, with 9 members paying $1 in dues. We have been in existence and improving lives for 148 years. You as members of the Ottawa City Commission should be very proud of the library and the staff that we have in Ottawa, Kansas. We value importance and benefits the Ottawa Library brings to our community, stand well in line with those of Prairie Paws Animal Shelter, Ottawa Memorial Auditorium, Ottawa Police Department, Ottawa Fire Department, the schools, the parks, etc. I am proud to be a part of an organization that brings so much good to the lives of those we serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. I don't think there's a commissioner that disagrees with the value of the library and the importance of the library and all the good work you do. I think at budget time, it's always good to see and check on that value. And as I think Commissioner Kaler has mentioned a couple of times, is that we did ask our departments to focus on holding their budgets level. And they did to the best of their ability, and that's what our general comments were, as well as the ad valorem taxes, almost 20% of for the library. So appreciate your remarks, and don't take our questioning of your management as a negative. It's just that we're talking about some real dollars here. And it's the time to do that. I might make a few comments now, unless there's someone else from the public that wants to step up and make some comments.
Mr.
Yes.
Mayor, this is Richard Ninestead, City Manager. One more thing on what you see in front of you. I would be remiss if I did not share with you that when we, meaning we, I myself, and well, I'm not two people, but I and my staff talked about this reduction. The chief stepped up and actually offered to remove those 2 overhires from the budget to help everybody out. And I very much appreciate that all of our department heads step up and do some extraordinary things. But it was my feeling that one would meet what we need to do, and that Adam, that still left 2 new funded positions in his department. And if he can get funded the vacancies he has, and we can actually see a turnaround in recruiting, that that could be a goal we could shoot for when we're talking about the 2022 budget.
Thank you, Richard. Is there anyone else who wants to speak at this time?
Mr. Mayor, it's Commissioner Crowley.
Yes.
Real quick, my position on this. After having the overhire and stuff explained to me the way it was, I was okay with the reductions as shown on the screen now, as with a total of the 98,517. And then when Commissioner Kaler, gave her explanation, one thing that's kind of been, resting on my shoulders for the last few years, I've been thinking about, is the fact that we have been cutting from each department head for years, for 3 years now. And, I feel like she had a great idea there with putting that 55,000 back into deferred maintenance. Now I know it would probably mostly be for the police department, but putting that 55,000 back in for deferred maintenance to kind of, to help with the issues that we know that are coming up. And as she mentioned also, the other thing that I was thinking too is when we had the discussion with Prairie Paws about their additional funds that they were requesting, when you look at their budget and if you throw the numbers out there for what we pay and for what they do for the city in comparison to what the county does and what the county pays, I mean, quite honestly, I don't even think they're giving them extra money either. So I think it'd be a good faith kind of thing to not necessarily give them the 10 that they requested, but that middle ground, like Commissioner Kaler had mentioned, that 5,400, I think she said. So like I said, I think the 2% would have been great. 1% is obviously even better. And by, certain math that I was doing, and as I'm not a math genius either, but it does help out on the property tax, payments that each individual will be paying. So that's just my opinion, obviously. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Richard, would you, at one time, I think this week, I saw a comparison of what a $200,000 house would pay on last year's budget as well as the one that we originally proposed this year. And it looked to me like there was a reduction of taxes on that $200,000 house.
Mr. Mayor, Richard Ninestead, City Manager. I will take this down, and the Mrs. Gimzo can put that graphic up, I believe. Right, Laurel?
I was on mute. Yes, I can.
And Commissioner Skidmore, just before we look at that, this is to remind everyone, this is just the city portion we're talking about, right?
Yes, this is just. So on the top, I have the 2021 property tax that was proposed earlier. And then the 2020 property tax with our mills last year, this year, last year, 2019 mill levy, 2020 budget.
Okay, I want to make a comment, my comments here, as we all are property owners within the city of Ottawa. Some of us own quite a bit of property, some just our homes maybe. So we're well aware of the property taxes that we pay for the city, the school district, and the county, as well as some other things that have mill levies. And when I look at what we're talking about reducing, I think we talk about, and we have very little discretion on what we can have some say over responsibility for, and one of them is the property tax levy. However, in where we're talking about cutting is $40,000, $50,000 on a total of $50 million budget, and what we're cutting is some things that really we put off for 3 years or more. We're talking about reducing Prairie Paws, which struggles every month to provide the services that they do render to our community, involved with the police and the safety of animals and people and all of those things. We can't expect them to go on with what they have, and I think it's right that we do give them that $10,000, even that we have asked others to stay the same, hold the same, and do what they absolutely need to do. I'm with Commissioner Kaler on the cutting the vehicle reserve and putting that into potential overhires. But what I'm really saying is we're reducing what could make a difference to stand with very few dollars to the individual taxpayers, which we're reducing anyway on our city part. So I would encourage and be in favor of leaving it where the city manager proposed, the department heads have worked hard for, and let's do the things we need to do. Fill the potholes, keep our buildings maintained, and support those that I think are essential to the community and to keep them operational and providing the services we hope they provide. And so what we're talking about is pennies that make a difference. We can sustain on less money, of course, but how long and how is that penny wise and pound foolish going forward? So, and I've always been an advocate. You live and you advance on your valuation. You leave your mill levies as close as possible. We do pay more attention when we raise mill levies than when we lower them, and so I think consistency is important in this process. So my hat would be out for those to leave the mill levy as proposed by city management.
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
City Manager Richard Neinstead, and to the commission, I apologize to you because here's what the deal is. This is a public hearing for you to hear comments from the public. And when you feel you've received sufficient comments from the public, then you close that public hearing. And the next item is where you ought to have the discussion about the budget. And if I'm wrong on that, the city attorney's on here.
I apologize. I think you're absolutely right. I got off on a tangent. Is there any more comments, any comments that from the public before we do close this hearing? Is there any more comments from the public? Are there any more comments from the public? There being none. Yes.
This is Laurel Gimzo, Assistant Finance Director. I just wanted to let you know, and for the public, we are $337,623 under the mill levy before any additional reductions. And that's all I had.
Under the
Laurel,
or under the tax rate.
Tax lid.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, hearing no more public comments, we'll close the hearing at 7:50. Now, do we have a motion or any more discussion? I've already said my remarks in the public hearing. So I think you know where I stand and how I feel about this. So let's get on with it.
So, Mr. Mayor, City Commissioner, if we're moving on to the next item, you may want the city clerk to read what the next item is.
Well, are we going to have a motion on what we do with this budget?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
City Clerk Amy Finch speaking. The City Commission discussion and decision-making on the budget would happen under agenda item 11. And then, yes, there would be a motion second. And your vote.
Get my agenda out here before. Okay,
If you are ready, I would be happy to read that.
let's do that.
Okay. City Clerk Amy Finch speaking. Agenda item 11, adoption of the 2021 budget.
Very good. Following public discussions and many weeks of study sessions, as well as tonight's presentation comments during the public hearing, adoption of the 21 budget is recommended. Now, do we have a motion?
Commissioner Skidmore, I've just got a question, point of question here. If we move and agree to a 1% reduction on the ad valorem portion, how will that be divided when you decide that tonight?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I mean, Commissioner Skidmore, sorry, you got demoted there again. So there you go.
Tonight, please.
He's always a mayor. He's been a mayor.
So what happens is, unless you target, generally what comes up, unless you target specific cuts, we would go back and come back to you. But it would be extremely helpful if whatever number you decide upon, I would hope that you as a body could come together and indicate where, at least by consensus, you would like to see those reductions at. That will help your staff. And because in the end, this is the most important issue the city commission deals with. And by statute, you deal with it. And this is your budget. And this is the community budget. So we need to know what you want us to do.
Okay, yes, Commissioner
Mr.
Harris?
Mayor, I did make a list, and I made the list that I had verbally given to the commission, and so I'm happy to present that and send that to our city manager and he can send it out to everyone. But I would make a motion that we approve the budget with a 1% decrease, approximately $48,017 for the 2021 year.
Okay, we've had a motion. Is there a second to that?
Commissioner Skidmore, point of clarification, that'd be on the ad valorem portion, right?
A 1%
Sure.
reduction in the ad valorem tax.
Yes, pardon me.
Excuse, Mr. Mayor, I just
Yes.
want a clarification. We talk about a 1% reduction and I think we're getting a little confused with the terminology there. And I think what the proposed budget was a 4% increase over last year's budget. And when we're talking about the 1% reduction, we're actually talking about a 3% increase versus a 4%. Is that a fair statement, Commissioner Kaler?
I believe that is a fair statement. Yes, you are correct. But my motion was we already publicized the budget, and I'm suggesting a 1% decrease of the publicized budget.
Okay.
Isn't that what because you asked for a 2%, and then they brought information to us
That's
about a 2% decrease, and so of the budgeted of the published budget, and
Yeah.
so
We're talking the same thing. It's the same thing. So, okay, gotcha.
It's a 2%.
1% decrease of the published budget.
of the ad valorem tax.
Of the published budget.
So, well, commissioners, if I may, Richard Nystead, city manager. Here's what I hear. We're talking about the increase in the property tax was 4%. And what Commissioner Jorgensen asked me to do was to go back and see what a 2% reduction would look like to that planned property tax increase. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Skidmore will second that motion on the table.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
I'd just like to say that this is Commissioner Jorgensen, and that I really appreciate the discussion that we've had this evening in talking about the different priorities of the city commission. And I think it's a good exercise to look at reducing the requested budget just to see where the priorities lie. I think Commissioner Kaler had some valid points in what she was looking at, especially like the transferring the 55,000 for the one overhire into maintenance of the properties. I think we have a great responsibility to keep the properties that have been entrusted to the city in good repair, and that includes keeping the HVAC systems working and keeping them maintained so they don't suffer from neglect, and then eventually we have to look at replacing the whole building because the repairs are too much to keep up with. I was looking at the rate of inflation for the year of 2019, and it's roughly 2% over the past year as a rate of inflation. So I don't think anybody can argue that the value of the dollar is 2% less than what it was a year ago, because it buys 2% less money. And looking at the additional 1%, I can live with that if we invested into our assets and keeping the buildings that we have in good repair. And so I'm going to support this motion.
Any other comments? Will the clerk call the roll on the vote?
Yes. City Clerk Amy Finch speaking. How do you vote, Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Mayor Wygand?
And I vote a reluctant yes, and so we'll have a unanimous vote on this, and good luck to our city. Thank you all for the good discussion and good ideas.
And Mr. Mayor, I just
Yes.
one last comment on this. Really want to appreciate Laurel for all her hard work on this. Good job, Laurel.
Absolutely. Okay, item 12.
City Clerk Amy Finch speaking. Agenda item 12, a public hearing for the purpose of considering condemnation of an unsafe and dangerous mobile home structure located at 931 East 9th Street.
This public hearing has been called for the consideration of condemnation of a mobile home structure located at 931 East 9th Street. City staff will present the details of this request for condemnation, and I call for Terry Elmer to do that.
Good evening, Commissioners. I hope you all can hear me.
We can.
We're bringing forward for this 931 East 9th Street. This is a modular structure. This is of the 5 that we're bringing for you tonight. This is the only structure that our recommendation that it needs to be removed, and no consideration for repairs on this particular structure. The structure has been vacant for several years. I think I actually started in 2015 and has been sitting vacant for all those years. Not getting a whole lot of communication from the current property owner. We've had some communication with him, but he's has no real desire indication to ever do anything with the structure. So our recommendation for consideration of demolition on this particular property.
Okay. Is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to this subject?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Instead City Manager. I'm gonna go downstairs and make sure that they're able to get in to talk to you.
We'll hold until you let us know.
Richard, this is Laurel. Would you like me to check if there's anyone outside?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Amy Finch, City Clerk speaking. After staff presentation and before anyone comments, we will need to open the public hearing, and I will try to jump in.
Do we open, I was going to ask you, do we open the public hearing for all of the ones we have on the agenda tonight?
We will.
Do we open and close, or we have the hearing for all of them but just handle them separately?
Mr. Mayor, City Clerk Amy Finch speaking. Each public hearing will be handled on its own, and the resolution for that property will follow. So each one will have a public hearing to open and close and ask for public comment within that.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
that was Terry's opening remarks. He also, this is Wendy Lee, Director of Community Development. He is now sharing his screen so he can show you the PowerPoint. There's several slides here for 931 East 9th. If you want him to go forward with that while Richard is checking with the public.
Well, I guess we should open the public hearing post haste here at 8 o'clock. Yes, Terry could go forward with that. I think we saw this the other day in our study session, but we can move through these pretty quickly.
And as you can see, I mean, the trailer is in very sad shape. I'm not certain if the public is needing to see any of these images. I don't know if there's a way that we can get them on any kind of a screen to be able to see what we have for this record on this particular property. So we've got these few images here for the 931 East 9th.
And this has been on the agenda for years, if I recall.
That is correct. We've been on this particular property. I believe it started in 2015.
And
Okay, do we know if
there are no owners here.
okay. Any questions, commissioners, before we close the public hearing? We will close the public hearing then at 8:03. And we need either discussion or a motion to follow the recommendations of staff.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. Yes,
Commissioner Jorgensen. I move to adopt the resolution as described in item 13 of the agenda.
Is there a second to that? Eric Crowley?
Yep,
Commissioner
Commissioner
Crowley?
Crowley.
You're going to second that? Any discussion? I guess we'll all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carried unanimously. Item 14.
City Clerk Amy Finch speaking. Agenda item 14, a public hearing for the purpose of considering condemnation of an unsafe and dangerous single-family structure located at 133 South Cedar Street.
This public hearing has been called for the consideration of condemnation of a single-family structure located at 133 South Cedar Street. City staff will present the details of this request for condemnation, and Terry Elmer will do that. And
Good evening again, Terry Elmer.
Excuse me. Do we open the public hearing before Terry or after Terry?
Mr. Mayor, Amy Finch, City Clerk speaking. Opening it before would be fine.
Okay. Well, let's open this meeting then at 8:04. Terry.
Yes, Commissioners. On this particular one, I have limited communication with this owner on 133 South Cedar Street, or South Hickory, I'm sorry, Street. This building's been vacant for a number of years, since 2010. We've had a lot of activity on this particular property, trying to do work without permits. We've posted property for working without permits multiple times over the years. We continue to get no contact with them, no good, there as far as what they want to do with the property. We post it, trying to get them to come in and have some communication with us. But it's only until here in the last week we've had some form of communication, trying to put in applications in for permits, but yet we have not seen anything from the property owner as far as what their plan or intent for the property is at this particular time. The structure is, I believe this is an older structure. The image on the screen is currently from 2019. I know this year it looks worse than this. It's severely grown up with vines and stuff on it. So our recommendation on this is, again, for request for condemnation or repair on this particular property as well.
And it is at 133 South Cedar, right?
Correct.
Okay. Anyone want to speak to this property?
Yeah, this is Brian Daly, the owner of 133 South Cedar, if I could speak.
Yeah, Brian.
Yeah, we have since got a contractor to file for permits and applications to make repairs and renovations, and we would like to proceed renovating it and making repairs and doing some structural roof repairs and make it a nice house again. So.
Commissioner,
if you could give us the time to do that, we'd appreciate it.
Commissioner Skidmore, I've got a question of the owner. Is there a timetable set for these improvements?
We've applied for permits. We need to add probably more things on. It looks like it's going to take probably completion of it. It'll probably take a few months. We're going to start with the roof first, and then work on the deck and the windows, and then work our way inside.
And Commissioner Skidmore again. So do you have the cash or financing arranged to make this happen?
We do.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Wygand, Brian, you have checked that the bones of this house is substantial enough to support a roof and do the work you need to do to make it livable again?
Yeah, we're going to have to do a little structural repair inside also. There was a little water and termite damage, so we'll have to start there before. On the back roof, we're going to replace it's over the utility room. The load structure looks good for load there. The rest of it, we'll have to do some structural improvements.
Brian, Commissioner Crowley here. How long have you been the property owner?
We've owned it for a while. We bought it and we own several different properties. We've got to looking at it. We didn't realize it had termite damage, and then we kind of did some sheetrock removal, and we just kind of we haven't kept with it like we should.
Did you own it, Commissioner Crowley again? Did you own it when the remodel was done with the new siding and stuff a few years back?
No, somebody else did that.
Okay. And I'm sorry, do you know about how long you owned it?
I really don't recall the exact year we purchased it. I don't know. We own several different properties.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
This is Wendy Lee, the Director of Community Development. I just wanted to offer that for this structure or any other structure, if the condemnation action is moved forward, any property owner would have to prepare a detailed plan of the work, room by room is our preference, so that we all are under a clear understanding of what it will take for this to be occupiable. And that plan, along with the licensed contractors that they plan to use and their timetable, so that as you all know, they're required to begin work or have their permit within 10 days of the passage of a resolution. And then work should be ongoing for the next 60 days in order for them to have any time beyond that 60 days. So I just wanted to make sure that was on the record. Staff is not opposed to repair of the structure, but we all want to be clear that the time for action is now, with a clear plan of repairs that the building official and the owner agree on, so that the structure will be safe for occupancy.
Thank you, Wendy.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley here again. And I say this every time we have these condemnation meetings. I myself have had a condemnation. I myself have remodeled a condemnation. So I've dealt with this process with the city, and Wendy, when she says that they are willing to work with you, they certainly are. And that's why I was asking these questions of the owner of how long it's been, how long he's owned the property. Because my concern is, owning it for a few years and letting it fall in disrepair. We kind of have to, I guess, instigate or initiate, shall I say, the remodel process. And sometimes that is, done by a condemnation. But it doesn't mean that it's being torn down tomorrow. They have the ability to remodel
it. This Mayor Wigand, I want to ask Terry or Wendy, how long has this been on our consideration, demolition and work list? As far as, has it been 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, like some of the other properties? And then I want to ask Brian if if he bought it, when it's been on the watch list, or has it deteriorated during his ownership?
This is Terry Elmer, Chief Building Official. We've been sending letters for the records that we had, the ownership was from 2014.
Okay, 6 years. Do you think you've owned it more than 6 years, Brian?
No, I don't think it's been more than 6 years. Huh?
Mayor Wigand.
Yes. Sarah.
I appreciate Commissioner Crowley's sentiments that he had brought up, and I agree. If the public has ever followed when we do condemnation hearings, I'm always a commissioner that says I absolutely detest spending taxpayer money to tear down a structure when a owner is present. I think it's poor use of taxpayer dollars when it's the owner's responsibility. And I appreciate Brian coming forward, saying that he is willing to do that. I still think that we need to move this forward and say, hey, Brian, because Brian, we want to work with you. Let's just make this happen. And maybe that means that we have to go through the condemnation hearing and pass it and say, let's go, let's get this done. From the memo that Mr. Elmer had prepared for us, it appears as though, letters started 6 years ago. 6 years ago, way too long, absolutely too long, and an eternity for anybody who's living next door or across the street. So let's get this moving. Let's get this house back and in livable condition. And we may have to do that through condemnation.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore, I just want to make sure that Brian understood Mrs. Lee's requirements when she spoke earlier.
Yeah, I know. We need to. We have let it go, and we need to move forward and make some progress, and
Okay.
we can do that. So yeah.
Okay, so the timetable she laid out is workable, right?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's really busy, so I mean, we should be able to. We've got the contractor, willing to proceed and everything. So, I mean, we should make pretty good progress within this first month, and then, it may take, the inside may take a little longer, but I think within 3 to 4 months we should have most of everything fixed.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler speaking. It does also appear that on this memo that taxes are delinquent for 2018 and 2019. I wonder, Mrs. Lee, if you might address, will that need to be, is that part of the condemnation hearing, that if they go forward that they have to bring their taxes up current?
This is Wendy Lee, Director of Community Development. Actually, no, it's not a part of a hearing requirement. What we at times, whether the owners are being fully responsible, If the taxes are paid beyond, are not paid beyond like a 2-year mark, they may be subject to a sheriff's sale and the property may be returned to the county. And it just shows further lack of interest. 2 years is not as long as some on this list are going to see. But I'm sure that if they're going to make the investments, they're going to want to get their taxes current too, so they're not at risk for any action by the county.
Commissioner Kaler speaking, I imagine that I would hope that was the case.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Skidmore speaking. Mrs. Lee, is this eligible for the neighborhood revitalization program?
Commissioner Skidmore, this is Wendy Lee with the Director of Community Development. I believe it may be. I don't know if we have a prohibition when we've actually gotten to the point of a condemnation hearing. So I would have to confirm that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, commissioners? Do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If I might suggest closing the public hearing before we do that.
Okay. If there is no more, are there any more that wish to speak to this subject in this hearing? Are there any more out there that want to speak to this subject? Are there any more? If not, I'll close this public hearing at, I have 8:15. Now, is there a motion and further discussion by the commissioners?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen, I move to approve the resolution for the condemnation of the subject property.
Commissioner Crowley will second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Okay, I'm going to call for all in favor. Aye.
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 All opposed. Okay, motion passes. And Brian, thanks for being here, and we look forward to you making the improvements you intend.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Where are we on? We are on item 16.
Mr. Mayor, City Clerk speaking, agenda item 16, a public hearing for the purpose of considering condemnation of an unsafe and dangerous single-family structure located at 202 South Locust Street.
This public hearing has been called for the consideration of condemnation of a single-family structure located at 202 South Locust Street. City staff will present the details of this request for condemnation, and I will open the public hearing at 8:17. Terry Elmer.
Terry Owen, Chief Building Official. This one is 202 South Locust. I have had communication with this current property owner, and he is proposing, he's wanting to do demolition on this particular property on his own. We're working with him to try to make that happen, but we still want to proceed with our recommendation for this condemnation for this 202 South Locust. It's been vacant, it's been sold, transferred numerous times, but we'd like to recommend demolition on this particular property.
Okay. It also has been on the list sometime. Is there anyone else, anyone in the public that want to speak during this hearing? Do we have anyone present that wants to speak?
This is Tom Hazen, the owner of the property.
Tom, welcome.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, I am aware of the problems the house had. I originally purchased the house expecting to be able to take it and remodel it because it is a historical siting for the first doctor in Ottawa. But over the years, it has become worse, and I have not had the finances to do it. Since this hearing has been set, I have been in contact with the city. I am interested in tearing it down myself because the funds are quite extensive to have somebody else do it, but I will not be able to start it within the 10-day period and would need some additional time, but I do have plan to have it down within the next 60 days. I'm hoping that that is acceptable to the council.
Commissioners,
Okay.
Terry Elmer, Chief Building Official, you may take note. We have put this on to start demolition as of September 1 on this particular property, as opposed to the 10 days on all the other properties.
Okay. Wendy, you got anything?
Mr. Mayor, this is Wendy Lee, Director of Community Development. Because he's been in contact with Terry and has made arrangements, if you know, the goal with starting is sometimes just to have the plan and to take the permit. So staff is collaborating, I guess, with him about the timing, and I think that's appropriate as long as we have a firm commitment to move forward. We still recommend you obviously pass the resolution to formalize that we're giving him till September 1 to start his process, and then to conclude it within the resolution timeframe.
Okay.
Commissioner Crowley here, and Wendy Lee, just confirm this for me. Even if he applied for a demo permit today, he wouldn't be able to demo it in 10 days anyway, just because of the process that you guys have to go through in order to have all the services eliminated from the property in order for him to demo it. So he would have had a substantial lot more time than the 10 days anyways, correct?
This Wendy Lee, Director of Community Development. Typically, the beginning of the process is obtaining the permit, and you're correct. His application for the permit would be the first step, and then we have all of the utilities confirmed, disconnected, and cut off, et cetera, so that during demolition there's no damage to anyone working there or to a utility system. And once that is completed, then we would issue the permit. All of that process is a part of the time frame moving forward. So it would still be appropriate, of course, for him to start that time frame so that we can assure that all the utilities are off. Oftentimes with a structure that's been without utilities as long as this one, it's possible some of those utilities have already been disconnected, but the first 2 weeks of any demolition application is usually confirming that there would be no hazards to anyone in the removal. So I trust that Mr. Hazen will apply for his permit, and we'll all get assured of that, even if he doesn't begin the actual deconstruction or demolition of the structure until September.
Thank you.
I will apply for the permit in the next couple of weeks.
Wonderful.
Okay. Is there anyone else that wants to speak to this subject? Is there anyone else that wants to speak to this 202 South Locust Street home? Is there anyone else? If there being no one else, I'll close this public hearing at 8:21, and we'll move to item 17.
Mr. Mayor, City Clerk Amy Finch speaking. Agenda item 17, request for approval of resolution to condemn an unsafe and dangerous single-family structure at 202 South Locust Street.
This resolution authorizes this governing body to declare the single-family structure located at 202 South Locust Street to be unsafe or dangerous, and to direct that such structure be demolished or repaired and made safe and secure. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Skidmore, I'll make the motion that we approve item number 17 on our agenda, and also just to thank Mr. Hazen for his willingness to work with us.
Is there a second?
Commissioner Crowley will second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Any more discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
this is Commissioner Jorgensen, and I just want to point out to anybody that's confused by the conversations that have been had today, that by the time it gets to the city commission for a condemnation hearing such as this, the city and taxpayers have incurred quite a bit of costs to get it to this point. There's advertising and so forth involved. And so the best route is to work with the citizen to do what they want after the condemnation hearing in order to keep the process going. And the city has been very good on previous properties to work with them, and several properties have been saved from the wrecking ball through this process. So it's a good process that we have. It's the process that we have to work with. And so I just wanted to point that out if anybody's confused on why we're condemning these properties when the owners are looking at doing something with them.
Okay, good comments. Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments? I'll call for the vote, and I'll accept aye. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, motion carries. Item 18.
City Clerk Amy Finch speaking. Agenda item 18. A public hearing for the purpose of considering condemnation of an unsafe and dangerous single-family structure located at 822 South Poplar Street.
This public hearing has been called for the consideration of condemnation of a single-family structure located at 822 South Poplar Street. City staff will present the details of this request for condemnation and Terry Elmer, and we will open the public hearing at 8:24.
Again, Commissioners, Terry Elmer, Chief Building Official, on 822 South Poplar, single-family residence. This structure is a bank-owned property. We have not had any communication from the current bank property owner on this, letters and notifications that we have sent to them. So again, our recommendation on this, or request on this, is for the condemnation. This structure is a structure, as we've been discussing, that is repairable, and we don't necessarily want to see it go to the ground, but we need to get some activity on this to continue to keep the neighboring properties not going down in their evaluation. So we would like to request the consideration for condemnation on 822 South Poplar.
Okay, is there anyone ready to speak to this subject on 822 South Poplar? Is there anyone willing to speak to the subject on 822 South Poplar?
Mr. Mayor, just to point out, this is not a local bank involved in this.
I was hoping you'd say that. Is there anyone in the room that wishes to speak to this subject?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, I live at 819 South Poplar, across the street from this home. It has been in this condition for years, and we are really ready to see some improvement in our neighborhood and see it taken care of. We have rodents that run through the yard and skunks or whatever, and you know, it's just not a good place to look at when you wake up in the morning. You want to look out your front door.
Thank you for your comments.
No problem.
Now I have to ask 3 times more. Are there any other people, anybody else want to speak to this subject? Is there anyone in the?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen again. I'd just like to, Commissioner Skidmore was kind that he did not mention the bank, but it's Deutsche Bank. It's actually, and in this case, the bank is not a good neighbor and has not taken responsibility for property that it has taken back. So I think it, and is not responding to the city in any of that on the condition of this property, has not paid the taxes, has let it go into disrepair. And so shame on them, for one thing. And I think the only remedy is the condemnation hearing, or the condemnation of the property.
Okay. I do have to ask once more, if there's anyone else in the room that wants to speak to this property. If there isn't, I will close this public hearing at 8:28. And I would ask for a motion from the commissioners.
Mr. Mayor, do we need to read the next item on the agenda before you'll entertain a motion?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm sorry. Item 20.
City Clerk Amy Finch speaking. Mr. Mayor, we are actually on agenda item 19. A request for approval of resolution to condemn an unsafe and dangerous single-family structure at 822 South Poplar Street.
Okay,
Mr.
this
Mayor.
resolution,
Sorry.
this resolution authorizes this governing body to declare the single-family structure located at 822 South Poplar Street to be unsafe or dangerous, and to direct that such structure be demolished or repaired and made safe and secure. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
First,
Sarah.
I must apologize for interrupting you. I'm sorry. This is Commissioner Kaler speaking. I move that we approve the resolution to condemn the structure at 825 South Poplar Street.
Commissioner Kaler, City Clerk Amy Finch speaking. This item is 822 South Poplar.
Yeah, 822.
Yes.
Didn't I? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that's what I said. Pardon me. 822.
Yes.
822.
22. Is there a second on that?
Commissioner Skidmore will second that.
Moving to second. Any other discussion? There being none, I would all in favor of the motion say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 20.
City Clerk Amy Finch speaking. Agenda item 20, a public hearing for the purpose of considering condemnation of an unsafe and dangerous single-family structure located at 825 South Poplar Street.
This public hearing has been called for the consideration of condemnation of a single-family structure located at 825 South Poplar Street. City staff will present the details of this request for condemnation, and I call on Terry Elmer, and I open the public hearing at 8:30.
Commissioners, Terry Elmer, Chief Building Official. 825 South Poplar has been on a list since 2019 through a petition from the neighboring properties, adjoining properties. So the property has delinquent taxes. Utilities have been off from the structure for several years. And so we're bringing forward this particular property through petition with recommendation for condemnation or repair for 825 South Poplar.
I see.
And again, this particular structure appears from all images and things that we have record of as structurally stable enough to repair it. We have no information about the interior of it, so we don't know anything about the interior side of this structure.
I see no letters have been written to the owner.
Mayor Weigand,
Yes.
this one does not have the length of correspondence that we typically have because the neighborhood brought the petition to us. This structure was not, we sort of do these on a triage with worst case by the time we bring it to you. This was not at that stage for us, but by our ordinance, when the neighbors believe a structure needs to be given some consideration, they can sign a petition. That's been done, and that requires a hearing. And at that point, the owner can show cause as to why it should not be condemned or could have asked us in to confirm that the structure is safe. However, the action, if you were to pass a resolution, would do the same as any other structure, whether it's as far gone or not. If the passes the resolution, then the owner would work with the city staff to be sure that the structure is occupiable and made safe and secure, so that it is not a blight to the neighborhood, which is how the neighbors feel or felt at the time of the petition.
Okay. Is there anyone that wishes to speak to this 825 South Poplar demolition subject.
Yeah, hello, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Stephen Rose. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
We've been trying to get to. We've been trying to get
catch
this.
Your name.
Stephen Rose.
Okay. Stephen, welcome.
Thank you. Okay. We've been trying to, for I believe like 13 years, complaining on the person living in the home itself, the nastiness of the yard, people, homeless people living all in it. The services have been cut off from the street, from the back sewer pipe. It is just nasty. 10 years ago, I was inside the house. It is all molded, rotten, all the center walls, the roof's leaking. That house, it's done. And we're tired of the nuisance of this owner of the home. And that's
Okay.
all I.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Yeah, hello. Hey, this is Delton Graves, and we have a simple solution for this one. We have a contract. He's going to sell the house to me. We will close on September 1st, and we'll clean it up, fix it up, and rent it out or sell it again.
This is Ken Russell. I'm the neighbor on the other side of the house.
Tim, go ahead.
This May 4th, the storm blew a tree down from that property onto my house and done extensive damage. And I have a $10,000 lien on that house that is to be filed tomorrow. And the place is filthy. It is a drug house. It is filled with stolen property. And every time we make a complaint, the police don't do anything. And this man is the biggest thief in town. He defecates on the property. He's a child molester. The place is rotten, stinks to high heaven. It is not repairable. It needs to be destroyed. It will raise our property taxes to have it gone, which I'm okay with, because that will bring our value of our property up. The house just south of us is worth $250,000. And because of this house, my house is worth $135,000. And it's just as in good repair as the house south of me. And I demand this house be torn down and get the blight out of this city.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else want to speak?
Yeah, we better comment on that. That's pretty much slander. We're talking about the house, not the people. We can fix it up, and there's nothing structurally wrong with the house at all. It's solid. It'll be easy to fix up. No problem at all. I can do it in a matter of a couple months as soon as I own it. If he puts a $10,000 lien on it, certainly not going to pay for that. Not going to buy it. It will go to the taxes then.
Anyone else wish to comment?
Commissioner Skidmore, I'd just like to ask Mr. Graves, has he done a project like this before?
Yeah, I own 51 houses in the community.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. I manage another 35, I think, so something like 80 some.
Any other questions or any other comments from the public?
Yes, this is Stephen Rose again.
Yeah, Steve.
If you guys open this can of worms, this is bad. This is really sad. And you guys know how long the utilities have been off of that place. If you do this with my home, my investment, I mean, welcome to Ottawa, I guess. I've been here 15 years, pay my taxes. That's terrible if you do that.
Wouldn't you like it fixed up?
No, I'd like it torn down.
No, it's not worth fixing. It's going to cost $10,000 alone to put the services back in. I mean, the man don't have that. You know what I mean? Please.
Mr. Mayor.
We know better.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Wendy.
This is Wendy Lee, Director of Community Development. While Mr. Graves may have a plan to acquire and fix it up, And while the neighbors may prefer for it to be removed, what our action is or request is for you to condemn it and for action to be forced by someone. Typically, if a property changes hands, after we condemn, we do give them an opportunity to present a plan for repair, just as we would structure that is owned currently. And so if you want, there are a couple of choices for you tonight that I would call to your attention. You can go ahead and condemn if it is proposed to be repaired. Because we have not been inside, we would need to ascertain whether there is in fact any structural concerns that Terry and his staff feel comfortable issuing a repair remodel permit, and that all of that is brought to code. And if Mr. Graves wants to have that inspection as a part of a potential acquisition, we're fine with that. The property taxes on this property are significantly delinquent. I don't want that to be overlooked. We do believe that this property will be on the next tax sale. That's what we understood. So if it does not sell, we would either be in the position of removing it or waiting for a tax sale. I suspect that from a staff perspective, we're not necessarily want to give that an unlimited time frame. If you prefer to continue it in order to have an inspection of the inside with a proposed buyer, we can do that. Otherwise, we would still recommend that it be condemned in order to keep moving it forward. If you would like to give a proposed purchase more time to get in process, you could extend, instead of having the 10 days to begin action, you could make that 30. That gets a little closer to the possibility if Mr. Graves is within that time frame, and maybe he'd want to comment on that. But clearly, by the number of neighbors who've come and the petition that you've received, they do have some concerns. And yes, we have had a number of complaints and issues from a more of a nuisance standpoint in this one versus the one across the street that is just deteriorating rapidly.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Crowley here. If I may, I'm concerned with what I've heard, not only from the neighbors, but Mr. Graves. The neighbors made a comment about a possible lien on the property, and when that comment was made, Mr. Graves said that he probably wouldn't go along with the purchase of the property. That being said, I would be concerned that if we don't move forward with the condemnation of this property, that may transpire, and then we are sitting here even farther along throughout this year, and possible farther, next year, with that blighted property in that neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other person want to comment on this?
Mr. Mayor, this is Delton Graves again.
Yes.
And the condemnation of the house doesn't seem warranted. I'd be glad to have Terry come through and look at it because it's solid. It's just that it was messy. It looked bad to the neighbors in the yard and the surrounding area. The house, there's nothing wrong with the house. There's just the things in the yard and around the yard and in the house itself that need cleaned up and moved out. There's really not much structurally to fix in the house. So I understand the neighbors' disappointment in it. I fully understand that. But the house is a good house. It'd be a shame to try to demolish that one. There's no reason to.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Crowley here again. I'll repeat myself like I said before about just because we condemn it don't mean it's torn down. It just expedites the reconstruction process.
But no notes have been given to the owner by the city. It was just 2019 that they looked at it. Also, he's making up payments on his taxes. He made an agreement with the tax people, and he's making regular payments every month on it. And they've all agreed to that. He's up current with them with their payment schedule. There's no harm there. The yard actually looks nice now. There's nothing terrible to see about it.
And Mr. Mayor, I would just add that typically We are in support of structures being repaired, provided that, just as we said with the previous one, provided a plan is put together and inspection staff have adequate information to be sure that once the plan is carried out, the structure is habitable. That is our ordinance. It's not about one side or another. It is that we want to see action taken so that structures don't continue to deteriorate or become more of a blight to the neighborhood. I certainly understand the neighbors' concerns, but it is from a staff standpoint, it is our objective to either have it repaired in an occupiable condition or removed, depending on how quickly they can take action on that.
Commissioner Skidmore, I've got a question. Wendy, or maybe even our attorney, if the neighbor does file this $10,000 lien on the property and we proceed with demolition, will that affect the city ownership of this property, and will that have to be paid in some form or fashion?
Mr. Skidmore, Commissioner Skidmore, this is Wendy Lee. We don't actually ever acquire a property unless we determine to do that tax sale. This resolution gives us the authorization, if there is no action by the owner or proposed buyer, to remove. And at that point, we would file a lien. If there's liens ahead of us, then they're ahead of us. And if they come after us, then our lien would take preferred status if there's somebody who comes along and wants to make that purchase. But we don't own it unless we go through the process at the tax sale to acquire it. We just take action and put a lien on it.
And we stand behind the taxing entity of the county.
We can use, and this is where our city attorney want to talk about it, but our investment through the demolition expenses, that's a part of what we do when we potentially, if we want to acquire it. There have been times in our history when the cost of the demolition was such that it could be recovered through our acquisition and then sale on the open market. We don't do that all the time, but we have done it, and it is an appropriate way for us to get the tax dollars back into our funds after we've expended tax dollars.
Right. Okay. Is there anyone else? Yes.
Excuse me. This is Delton. How can it be appropriate to condemn a property that you haven't even notified the neighbor about? Is that morally even correct? I mean, based on some neighbor that doesn't like the man and condemn his house for it? I mean, this house is not condemnable. It's perfectly living conditions if you were to clean it up. He just didn't live in a clean manner. And that's the problem here. We will clean that thing right up, make it look nice, make it worthy. There's nothing wrong with the house.
Mr. Graves, this is Wendy Lee, Director of Community Development. Once the hearing's called, we do send the notice to the property owner. If they didn't pick up that notice, and I didn't have the file in front of me, so I don't know if they signed for their notice or not. We do have an informal policy when we are writing structures that are not brought to us by the neighbors, that we're going to write them several times before we would consider a condemnation hearing. But in the communication that we've had with the neighbors regarding the maintenance of the property itself, the outside, the yard, etc., those are contributing factors in blight under the statute for a condemnation action. So it is an element for condemnation simply because it had not been, and it may well be right at this moment, but over the time it had not been. And because there was a petition received, the hearing is called for, and the commission gets to determine whether want to put a time frame on it to require action, and that could be repair. It doesn't have to be removal, but it does require action rather than inaction.
That makes sense. Thank you for the explanation. That makes sense.
Does anyone else want to speak to 825 South Poplar Street?
This is Steve.
Yes, Steve.
I'll pay $6,000 on that when you need to tear it down.
Say that again. I didn't catch this, Mr.
So
Rose.
that doesn't city any money. I will I'll pay $6,000 to help it be tore down when it's time.
Any other want to speak to 825 South Poplar Street? Anyone else want to speak to 825 South Poplar Street's demolition prospect? Does anyone else want to address the 825 South Poplar Street? Right here. Right here, no one. I'll close this hearing at 8:47 and ask the for further discussion or a motion. One of the things I think that we've always said is we take very seriously the neighbors coming forward and bringing our attention to a problem that's affecting property values and the safety in their neighborhoods. And so that carries an awfully lot of weight with myself and I'm sure other commissioners.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley here. If we are on item 21, I would make the motion to approve.
You made us on item 21 and thank you for the motion. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Jorgensen seconds.
Is there any other discussion?
I just, Commissioner Skidmore, I've got a question of Mr. Graves. So he's confident he could have this place looking respectable within a time. And does he plan to rent it back to the current owner or will it be someone else?
Good question. No, we wouldn't rent it back to the current owner.
And the time frame on the remodel would take how long?
Well, we haven't bought it yet. So if we get it bought, if everything goes smoothly, it'll close on September 1st. And then we'll analyze after we own it how long it'll take. But it's mostly a clean out and surface stuff. We'll put in central heat, central air, clean it up, put new flooring down and paint it and re-shingle it probably.
Okay, thanks.
But you do intend to put a substantial amount of investment into this property to make it fit into the neighborhood?
It would be as nice as the house. No, it would be completely livable, completely up to city codes, completely all permits taken, and it would look as nice as any other house in the neighborhood. Yes, especially the one across the street. No, I'm teasing about that one.
Yeah.
It'd be a nice house. Yep, it'd be a good house.
Okay.
But I'd like to condemn it if that gives me time to still fix it up. I don't mind at all.
There is a motion. There is a second. Any other discussion, commissioners? I will ask yay to approve the motion.
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we're at item 22.
City Clerk Amy Finch speaking, agenda item 22. Request for approval of resolution approving the final plat and accepting the dedication of all easements within the Heartland the Heartland Addition replat.
Easements include utility, storm drainage, and pedestrian easements as approved and recommended by the city engineer and planning commission. Wendy, would you like to speak to this?
Sure. As a part of this development process, the Planning Commission reviews the preliminary plat. The staff work with the development on their design, civil engineering, and the design of all public infrastructure. And then then the final step is the actual final plat, which is what you're seeing before you. The Planning Commission reviewed that and are comfortable with it. And what we're asking you to do is to accept all of the easements for the public infrastructure in this area. This is a long-awaited redevelopment of the former Lincoln School site. And so this is recommended for adoption.
Okay. Yes.
Commissioner Crowley here. First of all, I'd like to say I agree with Wendy there. I think it's a long-awaited project. I think it's looking good already. It's going to take up some empty ground and put some houses on the tax roll. That'll be awesome. And I would like to make the motion to approve item 22.
Commissioner Kaler will second, or third, if Commissioner Skidmore wants to be the second.
I defer to Commissioner Kaler.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion?
I just want to say I appreciate the people invested in this project. I think it's a great one. We've been long needed something like this. I appreciate Commissioner Crowley's comments, putting it back on the tax rolls. But yeah, for the investors, we really appreciate their commitment to our community.
Okay. I call all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All opposed?
Mr.
Motion
Mayor,
carried unanimously, yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen, please let the record show that I abstained from voting on this matter.
I ask the clerk to record that abstention, and we will go to item 23.
City Clerk Amy Finch speaking. Commissioner Jorgensen, I do have that noted for the minutes. Agenda item 23, request for approval of ordinance adopting amendments to the future land use map.
To make needed corrections and changes due to annexations, changes in uses, etc., a public hearing was held and the Planning Commission has reviewed. They recommend approval by a vote of 5-0. Wendy, you want to speak to this?
Mayor, I will briefly speak to this so that we can get on with the evening. Future land use map is one of our documents that guides our decision-making with zoning and development in our community. Due to, as you said, to some other actions, we needed to do an update. This was a part of getting all of our maps onto a GIS system. And there were some corrections that needed to be made. There were no public comments, and we recommend approval, both the planning staff and the
Okay. Commissioners, anyone make a motion on this?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler will make a motion to approve the ordinance adopting the amendments to the future land use map.
Is there a second?
Commissioner Crowley will second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion? Okay, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. It's only getting to be 9 o'clock, so report by the city manager. City Manager Richard Neinstedt.
He went to bed.
I was gonna say, did he fall asleep?
He fell asleep.
This is Richard Neinstedt, City Manager. Thank you for hanging in there this evening. Good discussion on the budget. Good discussion on those other items. I just might give you one bit of information on that last piece of property. Apparently, we do have a $1,600 lien on it. So it was filed in 2016. Has to do with the sewer issues. So there is at least one lien that we know of on that property. I also want to. I would be remiss. The group of citizens that came in to visit you downstairs, they were all wearing masks. And I am very appreciative of that. And I told them I appreciated that. And what I really appreciate is that is democracy. That's how our republic works. When citizens come in and talk to us, because sometimes we get in a bubble. And we need to hear from our citizens, and we have as much responsibility to hear what they have to say, and there is an awesome responsibility on a citizen to participate in the process also. So thank you, commissioners. Have a good evening.
It's been a good evening. Now it's night. Thank you, Richard, for your remarks, and very appropriate. Reports by city commissioners. Commissioner Jorgensen.
I won't speak long. I just want to thank the department heads and those employees who helped prepare the budget for us to consider today. That is a huge undertaking, a lot of hard work. I know there were lots of meetings involved with it, and we truly do appreciate the work that you do and in putting together that budget. So thank you very much. I'd also like to wish Commissioner Kaler happy birthday. It's her 29th birthday today. So happy birthday, Sarah.
I thought her 29th was last year. Happy birthday, Sarah.
Yeah, she could do that.
Let's not squabble, gentlemen. Let's not squabble.
Okay, Commissioner Kaler, since your name was mentioned, you're next.
I absolutely agree with what Commissioner Jorgensen was saying. Our department heads for the last several years have been asked to really hold a very tight budget. And I appreciate the fact that that's not been easy and that we've asked them time and time again to say, where can you deep cut? Where can you deep cut? Where can you deep cut? And I recognize as a commissioner that at some point you can just no longer cut, and that we don't want to start losing services. But I do appreciate every single department head and every single individual who took it to heart, saying, this is not our money. This is not any of us that are on this. This is not our money. This is every taxpayer's money. And we are responsible for every single dollar. And I take that incredibly serious. And I don't want any additional dollars coming out of my pocket, much like any other citizen does not either. But we all want services too. So thank you to our department heads for working and really doing yeoman's work in the last several months to make sure that we have a budget that we can protect and serve our community, but that we could be responsible to every taxpaying citizen.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Crowley.
I just want to echo what the two commissioners prior to me have said about the department heads. There's a lot of behind the scenes work that they do, and we don't see a lot of it. So I just want to say good job to them. Obviously, a happy birthday to Commissioner Kaler. And I'd also like to say good job to community development for the presentation that they put together on the 5 condemnations tonight. I think the pictures that they were able to bring up on the screens and let the public see the conditions of those properties kind of helped them understand our decision making.
Could I see the rest of your shirt? You got Ottawa. Do you wear that everywhere you go? Ottawa Bike and Trail. Very good. Excellent. Do you ride a bike, I guess? Let me see. We're missing Commissioner Skidmore yet.
Yeah, everybody said very well, much better than I could on your comments about their city staff working on the budget. And also, like Richard said, for having the citizens come in and express their opinions on these homes. I think that's critically important to witness that today. And the fact they're wearing masks, that moves me to the next comment about how important masks are. Our county's been seeing an increase more than we've ever had. I think we have 55 active cases right now in our county. And there's a problem with that. And I don't know if it's just if people aren't practicing social distancing, if it's not masking or what's going on. But I just really want to encourage everybody, please, if we want to get over this thing, we've got to work together and we've got to put masks on if we go out in public. So I really encourage everyone, let's do that. Let's work together and we can beat this thing. That's all I have.
Well, how am I going to beat that? Except I think all of those remarks were very appropriate. I appreciate also the work that everyone from the finance directors and the clerks, the city manager, and all the department heads and their employees have put into this and what they do for the city every day. Interesting process of budgeting and laying out the roadmap for the year to come. Also, I do notice more are aware of wearing masks. I see it more. All the time, there are still those who don't get it. And I would like to have somebody approach them and ask them to be responsible toward their fellow man and wear the mask, social distance, stay out of large groups. It's going to take a full effort to get through this thing and get it under control, because it is not getting better right now. I think with that, I will conclude my remarks and thank also, though, the neighbors in these neighborhoods where these homes are delinquent and the owners are not responsible, and them coming forward and bringing our attention and testifying to what's happening to their property values. And that's why we do the things we do for protection of property values and safety in our community. With that, the announcements include, we have a study session August 10th. That's next Monday at 4 o'clock. We'll do that by Zoom also. August 17th, again at 4 o'clock. It's a Monday via Zoom. And then our next regular meeting is August 19th, 10 a.m. in the morning, also via Zoom. And so that's the way it is. Good night, all. And it is 9:04. Thank you.